So today I am making some lemon poppy seed muffins, and I thought it would be fun to do this and talk about my experience taking the CDR exam. Now, of course, I can't talk about the content of the exam because I did sign a non-disclosure agreement, so it will all be general. But let me get started with this recipe. First, I'm going to zest this lemon and then I will begin. So I'm gonna go over this. Let me just get the hang of it before I start talking, you know. You gotta get some good zest. Okay, so I was studying for this exam for 2 months. I actually wanted to take it in July. I got off of school mid-June. Also off from my internship, which was part of my degree at school. And I thought, oh, I'll be able to study for the exam in 1 month. Let's just, you know, hunker down, study really hard, take this exam, and then start looking for a job. But the first exam opening was August 19th. So I registered and I just said, you know, to myself, I said, okay, this is fine. At least I have an exam date, and then I will go back, you know, in a week, and I'll keep checking every week and see if and when more exam dates pop up, because I've heard that only certain exam dates will be available, but you come back to the site, you keep checking back, and more exam dates will open up. So I did keep checking, but it wasn't far enough out where I was like, yeah, this is something I want to do. And then as I kept studying, I made a plan, and it would have taken me a month, but domains 1 and 2, there are 4 domains in this exam, took me way longer than I expected. And so actually, the exam being 2 months out was perfect. And so I didn't plan to extend it, but it ended up working out literally perfectly. 2 months was the perfect amount of time. I'm not sure how other people studied, like how long it took them, what worked for them, but the 2 months worked for me. Then I'm going to skip to the week before the exam. So the week before the exam, I really wanted to travel to the exam place because I'd never been there before, and it was a decently long drive away. When I looked it up, when I had chosen it to register, it was a 40-minute drive away, and it was the closest location to me. It was a Pearson VUE, whatever it's called, test taking center. And I just wanted to make sure that I was somewhat familiar with where I was going. I still would need Google Maps, I figured, the day of the exam, but I just wanted to have that experience of going and also seeing the building, knowing what it looks like, knowing where to turn, knowing where the parking is, so I'm not freaking out about that the morning of. I also didn't know if there would be traffic, so I kind of wanted to test that out with my drive. And then also my mom naturally gets up very early, so she volunteered to check the traffic times for me 3 days that week, so that way I could estimate when would be a good time to leave. So this looks pretty good to me. It's pretty well zested. So we'll put that to the side. And I'm just quickly going to add some ingredients to this bowl, and then we'll get chatting again. Okay, so now I'm mixing these ingredients, and I drove to the testing center, no problem. Easy. I found the testing center super easy. I got out and I walked around, and then I took this picture. Now, as you can see, I was nervous, but it went beyond that. I was anxious for this exam, and I actually hadn't been anxious for an exam, you know, a week or more before it was happening for probably at least like maybe like 2-3 years. So I had really worked on my test anxiety, my performance anxiety, but this was a really big exam, and I also had noticed that a lot of my peers had already passed. And instead of this encouraging me and me thinking, well, if they passed, they did the exact same things as me, I have a really good shot, I thought, oh, it's gonna be really embarrassing if I fail. Not the best mindset, so I had to do a lot of self-talk. Now I'm going to move on and put some ingredients in a different bowl, then we'll come back and continue chatting. All right, got all my wet ingredients. Gonna mix those up. So getting back to what I was saying before, I was really anxious for this exam. And the week before I was really just reviewing, but in like doing practice questions, but I didn't really feel super confident, and it was because it was just so much material. So it's like, how well do I need to know all of this? What exactly am I going to be asked? How should I be preparing? All these questions. But I guess the good thing is kind of crossed off my list. Like I knew when I would need to leave to make it there on time. I had already been there. So that was out of the way. I did my research and figured out what do I need to bring. You know, like I needed to bring in a mask. I needed to bring a government issued ID with a photo, my legal name, and my signature. So I brought my driver's license, which I would have needed to drive anyway. So perfect. And it was really just about doing well on the exam. So I was anxious, but I kept going. And then we get to the day before the exam. The day before the exam, I reviewed all the domains. So I went through my study guide, reviewed every single one. Whew, that was a lot. And the practice questions kind of psyched me out. Some of them did, because I was like, oh my God, like I don't know all this. I'm not doing as good as I think that I should be doing, having reviewed everything. So then that's why I wanted to review the domains, and I did, and it took me literally all day, and I really didn't answer any practice questions except for at the end of the day, I answered like 4 on my app, and I did really bad. And I was like, you know what? If I know it, I know it. If I don't, I don't. And I just have to let it go at this point. Let me just quickly check on the next step. I think I can mix these together. Yes, perfect. I slept, then I woke up at 5:30 a.m. You heard correctly, 5:30 a.m. The only time I could get that, well, the earliest time I guess available for when I had made the exam, made the registration for the exam was August 19th, which is a Friday at 8 a.m. So I needed to make sure that I had enough time to get ready in the morning, potentially to do a tiny bit of review, but not a lot. You know, you don't want to psych yourself out more. And to actually drive there and set up and get checked in, because you're supposed to arrive 30 minutes early just to check in. So I needed to make sure that I was there at 7:30, and that was on top of how long it would take me, 40 minutes to drive there and make sure that I park and I get in all right, but then also going back further, getting ready and packing all of my stuff, which I had packed a lot the night before, so I didn't have to do it all the morning of. But that was definitely something to keep in mind. So I woke up at 5:30. I left a little before 6:30. I was a little ahead of schedule, so that was great. let me just quickly move this batter into the cupcake liners, muffin liners, and then I'll be right back. By the way, this is what the batter looks like. Doesn't that look good? I love the look of poppy seeds. So cool. All right, I'm gonna move it in. All right, this is what we got. As soon as the oven is done preheating, then I will put that in. So continuing on, leave at 6:30. I get there probably, I think it was around 7:10, maybe even 7:05. So I had a good amount of time to review. So I actually, something that I had done the day before was when I was reviewing all the domains, I had written down things that I wanted to remember, things that I wanted to review. I sort of think of it as like a cheat sheet. Like if I was allowed a cheat sheet in the exam, of course you're not, but if I was, what would I put on it? So that's sort of what I was doing the day before. And I brought that with me. And so I reviewed those pages in my car at that time. Now, unexpectedly, I had to pee so bad. Random, but I had to pee so bad. And it was so odd to me because I purposely didn't drink a lot of water. In fact, I probably had like 2 sips of water that morning because I didn't want to have to pee. Specifically during the exam, it's about 3 hours, and not that you can't leave, but if you leave, your timer continues, which you don't want. You don't want to lose time, right? So I didn't want that to happen. I didn't drink a lot of water the morning of, but I had to pee so bad. Luckily, I was able to review all the material way faster than I expected. Well, review my little cheat sheet material. Then I went to the bathroom. I checked in. Checking in took longer than I expected, so I see why they wanted you to come at 7:30. And what I was surprised with, the oven's ready. I'm back. Unbeknownst to me, people taking a variety of exams were there. So I was not taking the RD exam with all other RD candidates. It was candidates for, law and engineering and all sorts of things, because they asked people, the workers there, they asked the students, the exam takers, if you will, when they came in, what exam are you taking? And I didn't hear everybody's answer because I wasn't there first, but I didn't hear one person say the CDR exam. So I'm thinking, what? I'm the only one? And I got unexpectedly excited because I had seen all these men walk in the building and then be in the checking in center room. And I thought, great, we have more male RDs coming in, but no such luck. So kind of just a random side note, I don't think I've taken enough exams with Pearson to have known that. When I told my mom, she's like, oh yeah, that's just how it works. So that was something that I noticed. It was a big thing to check in. But the nice thing was, as soon as you were checked in, you could put your stuff in a locker, which I did. You get a key, and then you go back to the proctors at the back, and they sort of recheck you in. You have to get the palm vein scanning with the check-in people. So I did that, and then when I got to the back, they scanned my palm again. And then I had, as I always do, my chapstick in one pocket, my hanky in another, and I didn't realize you couldn't have that in the exam. You literally can have nothing in your pockets. You can't be wearing a bunch of jewelry and whatnot. So they actually took that and they said, we'll give it back to you after the exam. And they gave me some like normal tissues for during the exam. So I go in the room, the proctor takes me to my little office cubicle, she logs me in, and the exam sort of begins. I was doing the tutorial, so that's not scored or anything, and it's not really on my clock, but it is part of that 3-hour allotment that I have. And I take the exam. They had headphones that I could put over my ears so I couldn't hear anything. There actually was a clock right above me, but I didn't even check it once. I was just like so in the zone. And I actually was pretty calm during the exam, which was great. But at the same time, I didn't necessarily feel super confident in my answers because I think everyone knows that the exam questions are very much like which answer is the best choice. So it's not like, oh, there's one that could only be the right answer. Most of them, or at least a good chunk of them, were which one's the best one. So you really have to use critical thinking and reasoning skills. So that made me not feel as confident. I just didn't really know, like, did I pick the right one? Did I not? And normally when I do well on an exam, I feel really confident. So I was like, like, I don't know. I wasn't really thinking about it too much when I was taking the exam. But then after, you have to take a little survey about, what did you use to study and things like that. And then they show you if you passed or you failed. And I remember when I was taking the survey, I was just sort of mentally preparing myself to fail. And then I pressed, submit the survey, and it popped up and it said, congratulations, you passed. And I was like, obviously excited and sort of surprised because, like I said, like normally I feel super confident when I do well in an exam, but in this case, I wasn't really confident. So I was really happy that all my hard work had paid off and I passed the first time, so I don't have to take that exam ever again. I'm stoked that I did so well. So I get out, I get my stuff, I go back to my car, I take a picture with my paper because they printed that out once I got out of the room. And I texted people the picture and that I passed. Super exciting. And I drove home and that was basically it. And then I celebrated that day by ordering a t-shirt with registered dietitian on it. And I also went out to lunch with my mom and my mom's mom. And then I think it was either later that day or the next day I got an email and it was like, you have to pay $70 before you could put Artie or RDN next to your name. And I was like, really? Really? The exam's already $200. Isn't that enough money? But at this point I have paid the $70 so I can put RDN next to my name, and I'm really stoked about that. I'm gonna finish cleaning up this stuff and I will show you when the muffins are done. All right, here are the finished muffins. They look pretty good. They're hot, so I can't pick one up yet. I am planning on making some lemon glaze to go on it, but I have somewhere to be, so I'm not gonna do that right now. I just quickly wanted to wrap up my thoughts. I think mindset when taking this exam is so important because it is hard, but so many people have passed and it's totally possible for you to pass. I passed, so why not you? And I think something good to keep in mind is if you do fail, just know you are not the first one to have failed. Many people have failed, and I didn't fail at this exam. I passed the first time, but I failed at many other things in my life. So just know that if you fail, that's okay. And you can absolutely still pass. The CDR exam is passable and you can do it. Something that I would recommend is maybe finding some affirmations that really resonate with you and saying those whenever you start to feel really anxious about the exam like I did. I have a list of affirmations that really resonate with me on my wall, and I said them to myself, if not every day, then most days the week of my exam. And a mindset that really helped me was that I love my life exactly the way it is right now, and I don't need this credential to make me happy or fulfill me or make my life better because it's already great. Do I want the credential? Do I want to pass the exam? Of course I do. I worked super hard for this, and I would be disappointed if I failed. But ultimately, I just kind of surrendered the anxiety because I knew that regardless of whatever the outcome was, I did everything I could. I tried my best. I deserved to pass, and I will live my life no matter what happens. So I hope that's helpful. If you're interested in making the same muffins that I made, I will link the recipe below. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.